Okay, I think you are seeing the opening slide for this call, which is focused on local democracy and access to justice, which is SDG 16, a real foundation stone for all the other SDGs. And I want to let you know that we are going to use Wordly for translation. So I'm going to push a button and that will send you an invitation if you want to see closed captioning in a different language. You have your choice of a lot of languages. We're going to have it in English, French, Spanish. I mean, there's 21 different languages. So probably your language is on the list when you see it. Now I'm going to press that button now to send you an invitation to it. And that is, so. So you should have had on your screen, if you're interested in the translation, a little button. And if you push that little button, it will open a window on your Zoom screen. And there's also a way to, let's see, there's also a link that we can use to send you in the chat. And Anne, I think you did that last time. Were you able to do it from your screen? Where it says Wordly?
Yes, I will put the link in the chat.
Yay. Okay. If you use the link in the chat, instead of opening a window in Zoom, it'll open another window in another browser page, and you can pick a language to see there. So we were happy to have you be able to participate in any of a number of languages that you choose. Now I'm going to give you a short introduction to the movement for those of you who are new to the movement. And then we will be hearing from our special guest speakers. This movement was started almost exactly 7 years ago when the Sustainable Development Goals were launched. It now comprises more than 1,500 community-based organizations, more than 70 INGOs, and people are organized in 17 national chapters. And those chapters are really the front line of our work. And in fact, in just a minute, Gunjan's going to tell you something that is very exciting happening for the community-based members of our national chapters. We have 5 goals. Voice and agency for women, youth, and marginalized groups, because that is a fundamental human right that is key to good governance. We want communities to have an adequate share of public resources. And we want good local governance, by which we mean democratic elections and transparency and social accountability. With those 3 things, we want every community to be able to have quality public services. And we want every community to have the information they need to be resilient to all kinds of shocks that are besetting communities these days. So that is the movement. And in just a minute, I'll introduce our first guest speaker, but first I'm going to stop sharing and ask Gunjan to make a short announcement because she has to leave early. So let me stop sharing. Go ahead, Gunjan.
Thank you, John. So many of you would have received an invitation for next week, for September 7th, for a special dialogue with USAID on localization and locally led development. Now, this is something we've been working towards, and I'm very excited because this dialogue is especially for community-based organizations and local civil society, domestic civil society organizations from the majority world. So this is one of the first times when USAID is going out to do a session which is completely with domestic civil society and only with domestic civil society from the majority world, to not just share how they are thinking about locally led development and localization, but to actually, respond to the questions, to respond to the queries, and to respond to the needs and the visions for partnership that, our members, that's community-based organizations, the domestic civil society organizations actually have. So we will be using Wordly again in that meeting, because we've noticed that a lot of the registrations are in French and in other languages. So we will continue to use Wordly to ensure that this is accessible. As with all movement meetings, it will be a meeting, and you please feel free to ask questions that you have around what this new localization shift is, what it means for you, ideas that you have, your visions for what partnership should look like. So this is going to be an open space and forum to do that. We will have the senior leadership team for USAID at the meeting and on the call to be, taking questions, to be in conversation and dialogue, because that's what we would like it to be, a dialogue, a two-way transfer of information, and not just us listening to USAID in that meeting. The only request I have is, in the movement, we have INGO members and we have local organizations and domestic civil society members, and we recognize the place that each of them play in our ecosystem and in strengthening the ecosystem for community-led development. However, this meeting is specifically for community-based organizations and domestic civil society organizations from the majority world. So if you are from an INGO, even if you're from the country office of an international NGO, or if you are a consultant or from a consulting practice based out of the global north or the minority world, then please do not register for the event. This event is exclusively for domestic civil society from the majority world. But yeah, we would be sharing more information closer to the date. So towards the end of the week, please look out from an email. If you've registered, all registered participants will get an email with more details. But we are very excited that finally USAID has recognized and is moving beyond the usual circles, global platforms and INGO platforms, to actually begin to speak to local organizations and domestic civil society organizations. So I hope to see you all next week.
Great, very good. Thank you, Gunjan, and thanks everybody. I'm going to ask Anne if you can put the translation link in the chat again, because the chat rather filled up with everybody's introductions. If you want to use translation, you'll see the link that Anne is putting in the chat. With that, I'm really pleased and honored to introduce our first special guest. Christina is, she met when she was here in Washington on a Fulbright scholarship. She is on the Constitutional Commission. She runs an organization, a network of organizations that of people who provide legal access to people in low-income villages throughout Tanzania. And she is just champion of reforms and very, very effective at it. So Christina, I'm handing it over to you. And we look forward to hearing about your successful experience.
Hearing my slide. Can you hear me? Hi, everyone.
Yes. Yes, we hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to put off my camera so that you hear me well. I think I have internet connection problem.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right, could you please share my slides?
Yes, here they come. Okay, we're seeing your screen.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my experience, but also the experience my organization is doing. I'm very happy and grateful to be here in this big community. So I am Executive Director of Tanzania Network of Legal Aid Providers, and this is the network of more providing legal aid service across Tanzania. I'm not only working to address access to justice in Tanzania, but also I am a member of East African Network and African Network of Excellence on Access to Justice. Second slide, please. Thank you. So today I'll be using two examples that I have used in my work of advocacy. So prior to 2017, Tanzania had no Legal Aid Act. And so we TANLAP and other stakeholders, we organized ourselves to engage the government to enact legal aid law. The law that now recognizes legal aid providers, recognizes first the legal aid service and all service providers. And so how did we reach that? Started by doing research, and we conducted research here in Tanzania, but also we visited some other countries in Africa and other part of the world to learn on how legal aid services is being provided. And so we had the research findings with other stakeholders, but also with the government and the parliament so that we get the law enacted. The second example is currently I'm engaging also the government to enact anti-GBV law, gender-based violence law, since not only here in Tanzania, but also in other parts of Africa, we have gender-based violence going on in the community. Another slide, please. And how do we do it? I've started by saying that we do research, we share the findings and the report, but also we conduct different engagement meetings. So we consult our ministers. So this picture you can see we were with the Minister of Constitution and Legal Affairs, but also we were with the Minister for Gender, responsible for gender. And so we non-governmental organization and other government institutions, we organize ourselves, we put together our issues and how we can go forward. Really, this process includes identifying key stakeholders, those who are supporting the move we want to do, but also we need to know strategies to get them by our ideas, but also for us who speak same language, we organize ourselves and speak in one language, supporting each other. When this one, other one supports in another session. When you have a large voice, that's when you get what you want to be adopted by the government. Second slide, please. As I have said, so we TANLAP, we are part of other organization, international, Africa and East Africa, but also we engage in a different makes the government accountable for what they promised to do. So we form part of UPLA mechanism, but also we are part of International Legal Aid Group and the East Africa and other networks that promote human rights and access to justice across the globe. And so when we learn from them, we and put in our documents that we use to engage and consult the government to enact the law. Another slide, please. After we have enough information, we have supporters, we have the best practices from other countries to share, and participate in public hearings and engaging in the government, in the parliament public hearings. So we were able to draft a legal aid bill of parliament, and so now when we participated in their our comments. So in any processes, in any law making processes, it is very vital that public hearing. So your opinion, but before the people you are other relevant stakeholders to the law you want to get enacted. So we had our legal aid clients, we got opinion from them, we legal aid providers, we coordinated ourselves, we had our opinions, and we had also that draft bill. And so when how many sections are on our bill? So, and then we were able to give them their comments and to give them our comments and our expertise on the legal aid provision in Tanzania. Another slide, please. In this process, you cannot avoid using media because media is the one which will amplify your voice, but most of the government officials and people in the community read newspaper but listen to radio and community radios, and so we used media, and we are now still using media for the Legal Aid Act that was passed. You see, you can see we were able to write newspapers, but also to participate in community radios. So our idea, and we could hear people attending live community radio stations and saying how it is very important for them to have that law, because most of Tanzanians are poor, and then hence they cannot afford services of lawyers. And so I'm sorry, I'm not seeing my slide. What happened?
Yes, the connection broke for a second. It's
sorry, where did we end?
No, it was just literally 5 seconds. The call broke. I've never seen that happen before. So you can go ahead. Are you seeing your slide or no? Oh, it's probably not. Let me read.
No, I'm not seeing.
Okay, here it goes. Okay.
Yeah, so that was for the Legal Aid Act. So we actively engaged with the media, but also as for now, when we are campaigning for enactment of Anti-GBV Act, we have started. You can see me there and the article providing the statistics for the cases of GBV, but why do we need the anti-GBV law? So that is another step that someone who is advocating for amendment of the law or enactment of the law should really consider. Another slide, please.
Okay.
Drafting of the bill, I have said. So yeah, we did drafted our bill, and even now for the gender-based violence, we have a draft proposed bill with there's different ministries responsible for addressing gender-based violence in Tanzania, but also for law enactment. But these photos you are seeing were photos for advocates for Legal Aid Act. So we started ourselves drafting the bill, and then you can see me the bill was tabled in the parliament, and I was given a copy, and I was so happy to see at least 90% of our opinion being taken into consideration. So yeah, another slide, please. Another strategy that we use is participating in different exhibitions, but also public awareness events. So as you can see, the first photo, that were the previous Minister for Constitution and Legal Affairs, Professor Kabudi. We had our Human Rights Defenders Day, and so we participated in publication and everything. When we have those events, we have these government officials attending the event. That's where you pitch your need. So we were able also to share with him what we wanted. But the other photo, you can see me giving presentation in front of Her Excellence Samia Suluhu, the President of United Republic of Tanzania, and the Chief Justice and the Minister for Planning and Finance. It was during Judicial Law Week, and we TANLAP, we were given a chance to give a presentation and share the work we do. So through there, you pitch what you want the government to hear, especially when you see the head of state by the vice president. It was early last year, but also this year we have participated again, and she was there present, and we were also able to share. And so it is really good to participate in these public events and the exhibition. That's where leaders and other stakeholders get to know you and what you are doing and support your mission. Next slide, please.
Okay.
The other slide is, thank you so much for listening to me. I'm available for any comments and questions you would like me to clarify on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. And we're having a little trouble hearing you because of the internet, but I think we got your message, and the slides also made it very clear the steps you went through to get the first law passed. Really hoping for great success on the anti-gender. Those are issues that everyone here is affected by. Any questions people have that they want to? If you use the little Zoom raise your hand thing, then I'll call on you. If not, I have a question. Christina, how long from the beginning of the process of working on the bill through to the signing of the bill, how long was that process?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. Really, it depends. So you cannot set time for getting a law enacted.
Right. I mean, in your
unless
case,
it is amending the law. In our case, it took us. We started advocating for it from 2009, 2010, and we got it. So 7 years.
7 years.
Almost 6, 7 years. Yeah.
That is not unusual. So I really
Yeah.
admire your persistence. And I think it is true. Sometimes these goes fast, sometimes these go slow, but just congratulations. That's quite wonderful.
Thank you
I
so
don't
much.
see. Oh, thank you. And now miraculously your internet is better. Your voice is very clear now.
Oh,
So anyway, with that,
Did Daisy have a question? I'm not sure.
I didn't see any hands go up. Oh, and Sophie.
Oh.
Sophie has a question. Sophie, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, Christine, for the shared experience. I just want to know from your experience how, looking at how long it took, 7 years, how you managed to keep the collective efforts together. Yeah, you can in the slides I could see there a number of actors that were involved, but how did you manage keeping the collective efforts together, or did you actually end up as your organization alone? Because from experience, is that sustaining advocacy, collective advocacy, many times a number of organizations drop off. But also to manage the divergent interests that come along. So I would really love to hear your experience on how you navigated that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sophie, for your question. It is true sometimes. So throughout the process, you monitor yourself, you evaluate yourself where you are going wrong. And so if some organization steps out, you get other organization to join you. You check where did we go wrong, and then you correct your mistake. You engage more and more. And so that's how the process works. Like they started as individual organization, but thereafter they said, oh no, there is a need to have a network that will coordinate all of us. We need to harmonize our efforts and go as a team. That's where we were able to get the law enacted. But previously, each organization were doing their stuffs alone. And so when we unified our efforts and we were as a team, that's where we were able to go further. But also we were able to identify key people within the government who are supporting our move. And then we put them in our team to give us heads up on how to go on, but also to clarify on issues that were not that were making the government not to pass the law.
Very good. Yes. Tashome, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you, Christine. Tashome from Ethiopia. I want to ask you that what is the difference between when you don't have the bill and now? For example, in Ethiopia, the legal aid services are given, but we don't have the bill. And
I don't know whether it's me or you.
Hello?
I'm sorry, I cannot.
Oh, so Christina, Tashome was saying the difference that the bill made, they have legal services in Ethiopia, but they don't have a bill. So what difference did your bill make? I think that was Tashome's question. Yes?
Yes, true.
Were you able to hear that, Christina? Okay, I think Christina's.
So I don't know whether I got no.
Okay, I think you're having. Here, I will just write it in the chat, Christina, because you're having trouble. What difference did the bill make? Because you were already doing legal services and now you have the bill. So what difference did having that bill make?
Oh, all right. And now I'm getting the question. So before enactment of the Legal Aid Act, we were just providing legal aid services by the virtue of specific provision for provision of legal aid, but also we had provision of legal aid in the capital offenses for criminal cases. So for us, we wanted a law for provision of legal aid services in both civil and criminal cases, but also to recognize paralegals and legal aid service providers. Prior, we had few legal aid providers who had certificate to go to the court to represent a client. We had like 4 of them, but as I'm speaking now, we have more than 100 organizations and more than paralegals who are providing legal education. And the paralegals are doing a very great job in our community to make sure the people access just we legal
Christina,
aid providers who have various. Hello?
yes, your sound is breaking up again, but we did get the message that you were able to go from having 4 people able to go to the court
I'm
to
so
having more
sorry,
than
and
100
I really
organizations.
wanted to respond to that question. Can I try to use my phone? Maybe the Wi-Fi in the office is
Yeah.
not clear.
Okay, yeah, you can try connecting through your phone. Meanwhile, why don't we move ahead to, and then we can come back to Christina. If so, our second speaker today is from Zambia, and the reason that I invited him is that I was at a meeting with the head of USAID, and she was saying, people were saying, hey, democracy's in trouble everywhere in the world, but there's a bright spot, and the bright spot is Zambia. And I had asked her about decentralization, devolution. She said, yes, there's a bright spot. The bright spot is Zambia. So we have asked the Local Government Association of Zambia, here represented by the Director of Corporate Services, Maybin Machalo, to tell us about the bright spot in democracy in Zambia, how decentralization and strengthening of democracy is working. Maybin, over to you.
Thank you very much, John, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
Perfect. First and foremost, I think it is wonderful to be a great discussion because democracy, decentralization, and development are some concepts that are very, very dear to me. I have great passion in those. And yes, taking it up from John, I believe we do have a bright spot in Zambia, and I just hope that we could keep this bright spot shining for some time. And yes, and to begin with, I'd like to, as I share our experience as Zambia in terms of decentralization, I'd like to start just a little bit by giving a brief background in terms of decentralization in Zambia and how it has evolved over time. So first and foremost, I should state that just like any other country, maybe around Southern Africa, or maybe even Africa and beyond, we good policies and legal frameworks. Of course, there's need. Can you get me? Sorry,
yes,
John.
Yes. You would. It was having trouble connecting your audio, but we hear you now. We hear you loud.
Maybe I can switch off the video.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, sorry about that. Yes, and so as I was saying that, but there is need to strengthen implementation of these nice policies and legal frameworks that we have because they state exactly where we need to be, the steps that we need to take for us to have decentralization or democracy within the different countries. So for Zambia, our main law or supreme law, which actually talks about decentralization, is the Constitution of Zambia, which has got a number of mandates which are given to local authorities. That is for them to make different decisions in terms of decentralization and development at the local level. So from this constitution, there have been a number of laws and other legal frameworks that have been developed, such as the Local Government Act, the Urban Regional Planning Act, or which give different functions or explain further in terms of different functions which local authorities have or should implement under decentralization. So the type of decentralization that we have taken or decided to take under as Zambia is devolution, and this is under the National Decentralization Policy. We have had time to revise the decentralization policy about twice, and we are getting into the third revision of the decentralization policy. And each decentralization policy comes with it some decentralization implementation plans, which explain the different steps that we are going to take as the country. So through these policies and legal frameworks, a lot of opportunities and of course challenges, which I'll share later on, have come up. I'll start with the opportunities, which have made us a little bit that shiny spot that John was talking about. So first and foremost, just recently when we exercised our democracy rights, we went to the polls, I think in August last year, and ushered into office new leaders at local level, that is councillors and mayors and council chairpersons, as well as at national level, the members of parliament. And from there, we also had a new government in place, which made a decision to increase the constituency development fund from 1.5 million kwacha to about 25 million kwacha, which was a big step towards implementing decentralization in a way, especially fiscal decentralization. Although there have been different thoughts that have come around to say, maybe what about the administrative parts of decentralization? How do they come in and so on? But yes, we have seen increased financial resources to the grassroots through the constituencies and through this CDF. So this constituency development also come with increased scope than previous constituency development fund which we had. It is also now catering for bursaries, that is boarding school bursaries, as well as other skills development and loans as well, which was not the case before. So all these are being handled at the local level. Of course, we do have the member of parliament within the constituency being part of the constituency development fund committee, as well as local authority officials also sitting to decide on how these resources can be used. Of course, these decisions are based on the community priorities. The other opportunity that this has also brought up is an unbound threshold for local authorities. Initially, local authorities used to be bound in terms of procurements. And right now, since the CDF also increased, their procurement thresholds have also increased, which has given them more leeway in terms of exercising their financial freedom in a way. The third one rather, is integrated development plans. And this, I think, is one tool which actually implements that saying of development is local. We have been using the integrated development planning tool or integrated development plans to decide the future of the people at the grassroots level together with them. We have worked with ward development committees, which are the smallest structures at the local level, in deciding priorities we would like to have in different districts. We have worked with traditional leaders as well on such platforms where they have also had a say in terms of where exactly are we going to have the next borehole, where exactly are we going to have the next school, and all those public services that local authorities and other organizations at local level deliver. Aside from that, there is a closely linked concept, which is local economic development, which where we have now also been bringing together different local stakeholders and bringing them to plan for their local economy by making use of their comparative and competitive advantage to create jobs, increase incomes, and also reduce poverty within their local areas. So we've seen local authorities coordinating different stakeholders at a local level and coming up with LED strategies We've also seen them undertake value chain analysis as well as develop bankable business plans, which have been developed. And at the moment, the ones that have really advanced in that area are those that are with the Ministry of Finance or other private stakeholders who are looking to fund these bankable business plans. Aside from that, we have also seen new districts created within the country. These new districts are coming from these districts which were bigger initially. We would have districts which were big in terms of administration, and that has to do with the sizes. And those used to make, the huge size of the districts used to make them very difficult to govern or manage. And as such, the government decided to cut them into smaller parts and also ensure that there is matching human resource as well as financial resources to deliver services or administer these districts. So we've seen a number of districts increase in the recent past, and this has also delivered development to the local level. Aside from that, most recently, we've also seen district human resource committees coming up, and these are managing local authorities staff, that is promotion, transfers, and the like. And these will also see at least efficient and effective human resource working at that local level. This come with challenges, or these strides have not come with challenges as a country or as also local authorities. The first is a restrained autonomy for local authorities. Yes, in as much as we do have all these policies, legal frameworks, and so on, still there are certain issues that local authorities cannot entirely decide on. So this provides us, as the Local Government Association of Zambia, areas in which we can undertake lobby and advocacy, hold different structured engagements with government to ensure that some of these bottlenecks are addressed. The other constraint or challenge that we have faced is inadequate civic engagements in certain areas or aspects of planning. Yes, we do have the IDP, we do have LED, which all speak to civic engagement, but there's still more that could be done around that area. The other is a fiscal constraint, which I think is something which is quite big for local authorities in Zambia. And right now, we do have local authorities in Zambia that are just having only enough financial resources to maybe just meet their human resource needs, that is maybe salaries, and then very little in terms of public service delivery. So at this point, I'd just like to end here, or rather pause here and give it back to John. And also if then maybe there are any other points of clarification that maybe anyone has or questions, I'll be very, very glad to respond to. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Maybin. It's great hearing you, and it's great hearing the progress there. And that jump from 1.5 to 25 million in devolution, that's a big jump. Probably more would be even better, but that's a really significant change that's come about. And so, and I also want to thank Christina, who's continuing to interact over the chat. So if there are more questions of Christina, you can put them there. But meanwhile, for Maybin, Tashome has his hand up. Do you have a question, Tashome, for Maybin?
Yes, John, thank you. Thank you, Maybin. This is very important issue you talked about. One of the challenges of decentralization is financial decentralization. For example, tax collection at the lower unit level. This is on the policy side. On the community side, the community capacity to make expenditure tracking and budget monitoring. How is Zambia faring in these areas, please?
Thank you very much, Tashome, for that question. And I do agree with you, those are critical areas, fiscal decentralization as well as community capacity in terms of undertaking most of these increased functions. So for fiscal decentralization, it has been a problem that we have been grappling with for some time. And as I mentioned earlier, the move to increase constituency development fund from 1.5 million to 25 million was seen as a way of achieving this fiscal decentralization. Of course, in certain areas, some of the local authorities have also said that maybe they still need, a little bit more that can be done in terms of administrative and also further in terms of fiscal decentralization. So for us, we have tried, as a country, we have tried to do that using CDF. Of course, we're learning a lot as we are doing that with certain things that work and certain things that do not work. But I must also be very open to say that in as much as we see that as part of fiscal decentralization, maybe it could be nice to further expand the scope of the Constituency Development Fund, because we only have 4 broad categories which it is taking care of. But when you look at fiscal decentralization, we have different other categories that could come in. So maybe as we learn or as we implement this CDF, we will maybe try to improve on those areas. In terms of community capacity, I do agree that that is a huge issue. And even us as a country, we have been facing that issue. We do have people at the grassroots level who are willing to serve for the community and also willing to make sure that there is development within the communities that they live. But they do not have adequate capacity in terms of implementing certain activities. So what we have been doing to help with that is that we have been working, the government has been working with different development partners, such as maybe USAID. They've also been working with the EU and others, just to mention but a few, who have been building capacities of local, of communities. So I'll give an example of one activity that we undertook most recently under the an EU-funded project, where we built capacities of WDCs, or those are ward development communities, at local level in 11 districts, and these came up to about 5,000. So we built their capacities in terms of financial literacy, how to assess projects, and also providing that feedback mechanism to local authorities. But I must also admit that there's still a little bit more that we can do. As they say, capacity is an ongoing process. Capacity building is an ongoing process. There will be no time when we say that the capacity is built. And it's only at that point, maybe when someone is dead, for example, that is when maybe it gets to that. But it is an ongoing process, and there's still a lot more room for capacity building within the local authorities and within the communities. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Hello, John.
Yes, who's this?
Yeah, maybe just to add on to what Maybin has said, I've seen a question in the chat talking about how is your decentralization process bottom up to involve the community in planning. So
Yes.
what has happened is because of the increased constituency development fund, almost all the communities have been involved to do the planning in their communities, to look at what is it that is the gap, what is it that they need to improve, what is it that they need to work on. So you find that it has made more of the communities getting into planning, into developing their community than it was before. So now the funds have been sent into the district, into their constituencies, to help the community and to say, you have these funds. So which areas do you want to look at? So you find that there's so much now of bottom up, planning where the community is so much involved to ensure that the plan, they do the work according to the challenges they are facing at the community. I can cite an example of an area where we have an aid center in the Bob district in the Eastern Province, where you find that the WDCs are really working hard to sit and plan, look at the challenges they are facing, what is it that is their priority areas, so that the funds that have gone to constituents, address those challenges that are being, developed or talked about by the community. So the bottom up, the community is more now involved in the planning than ever before. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, Samuel. I was talking with one person once who said, the first step is the money. If the money is there, the communities will be mobilized to set their priorities. And if there's no money available, that's why very little motivation to do that, except something about we'll hear from Anne about shortly. But Marion had another question about the Constitution being available in local languages. And I didn't know if that was for Tanzania or for Zambia both. But in terms of Zambia, is the national constitution available in local languages? Maybin?
Thank you very much, John, and quite an interesting question. I think we do have extracts of some of the constitution in one or two local languages. And I think that has been distributed across the country, but I think that is also maybe another area that we could also look at. And I also just wanted to add to the previous question where we're talking about the bottom-up approach and relating it a little bit more to integrated development planning, to say that we have also been undertaking integrated development planning, which is a bottom-up approach to planning in terms of deciding what type of priorities that we have been doing. That's aside from the CDF. But for the constitution, I think we do have some extracts in local languages.
Thank you. Dr. Rebecca, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes. When I hear about decentralization from the top to the local people, I thought that the local government or the people in the villages will get the cake, the national cake, and then participated. Like in Nigeria, there are trillions of budget and millions will be given to local government or state and all this. But then the local people, they are not getting anything. So when Maybin, or what is your name? Sorry if I call it wrongly. When right. You talk of decentralization, I thought like in the budget, the government will like partition the money according to villages and local people, so that like a village head or community will form their own community and then use the money as they will want to use, so that poverty and all this will be gone. But when I heard that there are some foreign people that are coming with foreign donor agency like EU and is it USAID supporting you and then empowering the people? So is this decentralization, or we are still depending on the foreign people to come and help us? So it's high time. African, we have a lot of money, a lot of resources and all this, but some few people will just come and pack it. Recently in Nigeria, I think I said it before, our Anthony, the one in head of accountant general, he embezzled 100 and something billion, he alone.
Yes.
And he built a lot of things for himself and his family. So my question is, are you getting, going to the government and then getting something to the local people, or depending on the sponsorship that you are getting and then building the capacity of the people? One. Secondly, the jump from 1 point something million to 25 million from the federal government, and then to how many community? Because like one community, this 25 million will not even be enough to build their infrastructure like a water or school and all this. I don't know how large is the communities in your country, but in Nigerian community, we have huge. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, John.
Yeah, go ahead, Maybin.
Oh, thank you very much, Rebecca, and very, very interesting thoughts coming out there. And to respond to your questions, first and foremost, the support that we have been receiving from donor agencies or development partners such as USAID is more or less something that just helps strengthen the local capacities of the communities. In terms of the actual funds for decentralization, that is the CDF that I've been talking about, they are coming from the national coffers. So you know how it is with development, there's always room for anyone or any other player to implement or to come and also take part in. There are very little restrictions under development, and as such, there's always room for different development partners to come in whenever they see a certain loophole. Of course, even the CDF, the 25 million that I have been talking about, also has a small component which goes towards capacity building. But as I mentioned, capacity building is an ongoing process. You can never say that you've got enough capacity, or you can never have enough resources for capacity building. There's always something new that is coming up because society is dynamic. There's always something new that we need, new challenges, new opportunities that we need to align ourselves to. So that is the response that I have for you. Yeah. And in terms of the size of the 25 million, for our local currency, the 25 million kwacha is a very good amount to implement the different types of projects because of the current economic status or cost of goods and services in the country, as well as also relatively smaller sizes of communities in Zambia. So at least for the 25 million kwacha, most of the communities have been able to drill boreholes, they've been able to construct schools, they've been able to sponsor different school-going children in boarding schools and so on. They've also been able to also give loans to different entrepreneurs so that they can start up businesses and so on and so forth. So the huge jump from 1.5 million to 25 is, I think, a huge step for us, and it is something that is making a difference in people located within the villages, because we have 156 constituencies, and all those constituencies are receiving this 25 million. Thank you.
So that just for those of us who don't know kwacha, that's almost 1.6 million US per constituency. So that is a good and proper amount of money. I will calculate the percentage of the national budget, but this is a huge shift forward. I know we were calculating when I was in Zambia in 2018, we were realizing that NGOs were putting if they were working in a community, they were bringing in much more money than the government was able to bring in. But now that is reversed, and the national government is providing each constituency with a proper amount of budget for serious development work. Marian, you have your hand up. Do you want to ask your question? You can unmute.
John, maybe before she comes in.
Okay, go ahead. Who is that?
Samuel.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to also add that I think the way this constituency the development fund that is coming from government coffers is helping. There are also some guidelines that have been put in place to say the local people, for example, if we have the bricklayers or the contractors within the constituency, those are the ones who are supposed to be able to implement the project within the constituency. So meaning that if we have also people who are doing businesses selling like things like you know, the hardware, they're also impacted from the same amount. If we have people within the constituency who are the contractors, also, so we find that the fund will really work within the constituency and improve the lives of people within the constituency. So that's what I wanted to really add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Samuel. You were breaking up a little, but your point was the economic impact of it, because it is spent, that development money is spent with local contractors, local providers, etc. That's great to hear. So Marianne, I don't know if you wanted to add your question. Are you able to unmute? I heard earlier you weren't able to. Are you able to unmute and ask your question, or? Okay, I think you've posted a question about budget transparency, the role communities are holding providers to deliver on their procurement process. I'm trusting that's the question you wanted to ask. So given that you're very, Maybin, you're very involved with local governments themselves, what is their budget transparency requirements for the for the CD fund? Maybin?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, John. Sorry, my network was quite bad there. But if I got the question, it has to do with how transparent is the budget for CDF.
Right.
Yes. Sorry, please
Yes.
go ahead.
No. Yes, that's the question.
Okay, yes. The budget for CDF is quite transparent, especially that this is the people's money. This is money for the constituency. And as such, everyone has an eye on the CDF. And the CDF is also very, very heavily audited by the Auditor General. So local authorities are even advised to keep any evidence that has to do with CDF, that is all the vouchers, the minutes, the reports, everything that has to do with CDF for a number of years, so that the Auditor General can still go to each local authority and audit these funds, how they're spent, and so on and so forth. Aside from that, the community is also engaged through the process, because they are the ones that make these applications for CDF. There are certain forms that communities have to fill in terms of CDF, and they make the application, be it for a borehole, be it for a school, be it for a loan, bursary, and so on and so forth. So that is the level of transparency that exists under the Constituency Development Fund.
Great. Sophie, you have your hand up. Do you have another question?
Thank you, John. It's related to what you just talked about. I was curious to learn from Zambia. It seems this ideal world with local democracy. The way he presents the level of decentralization, I just want to hear from him how the local communities are empowered to decide, make development choices with that CDF fund, because and then also relating to the whole accountability framework, how they are able to hold the duty bearers to account for the resources. And then while we have the CDF, how the communities using the local resources that are generated. Because in a decentralization system, I'll look at the example in Uganda. Decentralization is disguised while all funds are managed at the center, and including the local resources, yeah? But we talk of decentralization, putting services closer to people. I love the fact that there's been an increment in financing to around $25 million or purchase, something like that. That is a big leap, but is this actually translating into local development? I think we need to interrogate that, because the local democracy and this whole ability to influence development choices should be measured on the visible transformation that is happening in communities and the level of empowerment communities have to take charge of these resources. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure Maybin would agree. And from my understanding, in his previous answer, that everybody has their eyeballs and voices involved in this amount, and it's, as I mentioned, $1.6 million US per constituency, and there's 158 constituencies, I guess. So the Constituency Development Fund is transparent. It's a new step. This is a big new step, and it's Zambia, like other countries, has had its problems with corruption. I know that the government has announced a major push against corruption, and we will see how that's going. I don't know if you want to comment at all on Maybin on how the anti-corruption campaign is going, but it's, Zambia does have, I was very personally impressed that, since 2010 with the Kenya Constitution, there was a big serious devolution only in Kenya. That was the only country in sub-Saharan Africa with a major shift of money to local communities. Now Zambia had a very good policy framework for community development. It just didn't have the money there. Now it has the money there. So, but in terms of the overall national situation, did you want to comment on the anti-corruption campaign at all, Maybin, or shall we just move on?
Maybe just to say that very, very good comments coming out there. And I do totally agree with your comments as well, John, which is the exact situation that we do have. And in terms of the anti-corruption commission, as well as the anti-corruption fight that we do have in the country, it has really been re-sparked, so to say, with the new government. You know how it is whenever you have new people in certain places, they're always trying to make a name for themselves and also just to create that change genuinely. So there has been a lot of efforts in terms of fighting corruption within the country. But of course, as I mentioned earlier on, we just ushered a new government into power. I think that was within just about a year now. That was last August. So the other year, August rather. So there's still a lot more maybe time that we need to give them to see how certain processes can still be implemented. You talk about the accountability systems or processes for the CDF. Firstly, we are just getting into implementation. And after implementation now, that is when the rest should now fall in place. So like I said earlier on, we just recently made most of these changes as a country, and we are still learning. There's a lot of learning which is going on, a lot of refining which we still have to do. And of course, even up to now, we still receive a number of circulars from the government under CDF, related to CDF rather, to say, here, I think what we need to do is this or this, which even just reminds me of a meeting that we had with the Republican president, that was, I think, a fortnight ago, where he also further provided guidance over the same CDF. So we're still learning, but there's some good that is coming out, but we're hoping that we get there.
Good. Well, this was a big goal for the whole movement and a big goal for humanity, I think. So good, good, good. So we're going to move on. We're getting close to the end of our time together. I want to thank Christina and Maybin again for being so generous with their time. Both of them are very involved with lots of meetings right now, as you could imagine, with all that's going on. And I know the Local Government Association has their big conference next week. So I really appreciate both of you spending time with us. Another big thing that's been happening in the movement has been our own capacity strengthening processes, and that are underway and are bigger than we ever imagined they would be. Anne, do you want to make an announcement about resource mobilization?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thanks. And thanks for this conversation we've been having. This is fascinating and so exciting. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Hopefully you can see 3 red buckets. As many of you know, we have an umbrella strategy that is co-created with our national chapters and with participants, civil society participants from all around the world, trying to focus on how to be the most strategic in terms of strengthening civil society and focusing on more and better community-led development. Our umbrella strategy has 3 buckets that you can see here. And we had a course recently on network weaving, which addressed some of the needs identified in our umbrella strategy. And now, yesterday, we started a course on domestic resource mobilization in partnership with Change the Game Academy. This is meeting the needs of bucket number 2 that you can see here, which is about generating resources, human, financial, and in-kind, and other kinds of resources for civil society organizations. Yesterday, we had a great start to our 6-session course. We had about 280 people signed up. We had 120 people show up. A lot of people said they couldn't come, but they're going to watch the recording. So I think we've tapped a vein with regards to this huge desire to become more sustainable and more focused on balancing domestic resource mobilization as a main way forward. Of course, always looking for international partnerships, but from a mindset point of view, not really expecting the big international grant funds to be the sustainable source of progress. So thanks to everyone that joined yesterday. If you know someone that still might like to join, it's not too late, although it will be soon. So get in touch with me and I can send you the information. And yeah, we're really looking forward to not only learning together in this course, but to building our network even larger. We have 30 people from Palestine in the course, and we haven't worked a lot with people from Palestine before. We have dozens of other countries represented in the course. So that's my quick update. Thanks for the time.
Great, Anne, thank you. I'm going to share my screen again. So I just want to go over some upcoming events. Let's see if it's going to, screen is going to appear. There it is. So as just a reminder to what Gunjan said, everyone who's on our mailing list should have received an invitation about this very special consultation. We really, USAID, just similar to situation to Zambia, USAID has made a very big commitment to shift the power to shifting how their money is spent. with a goal of having half of it spent through community-led development, at least 25% of their whole budget going directly to local organizations. This consultation will be really their first time to engage with true community-based organizations, so that CBOs can tell them what they're looking for in terms of ease of partnership with USAID, and then USAID will be sharing what they're seeing. So then the International Day for Democracy is one of those big international moments, which I hope some of you are using. It's a good day for tweeting about strengthening local democracy, or sharing on Facebook, or having events or discussions. The UN General Assembly high-level session is starting on the 19th of September. Gunjan and I will both be at the UN General Assembly. So if you know there's people from your country who are going, who want to link with us, please let us know. There's a lot of side events going on. So even people with no credentials inside the UN can attend a lot of sessions that are going on all over New York City. Our next global call will be in this same time slot on Wednesday, September 28th. And then heading into October, the World Bank is having their annual meetings. The Committee on Food Security in Rome is having their meetings, and World Food Day is coming up. So given all of the work that so many of us are doing on transforming and strengthening local food systems, community-led food systems, October is a big month for that. And then finally, we shared last time and shared in the newsletter that all the way in 2023 is the Women Deliver Conference, the biggest conference on women's rights that the world has. It's going to be in Kigali, Rwanda. There are some scholarships for people from the majority world, but you should apply for them quickly. If you want to participate in that conference. So those are our coming events. As always, I want to plug our website and newsletter. The Shift the Power newsletter currently goes to more than 5,300 policymakers, NGO people, think tank people, academics. I would be really happy if it actually went to 7 million. 10 million people should be hearing about your work. So whenever you're networking, be sure that people are signing up for the newsletter. We're also going to start producing it in at least French and Spanish. So we'll be setting up ways to do that. And you're always welcome to send along your ideas for our agenda, for what should be on the website. I really hope every national chapter makes sure that they're getting the bright, shining stories of their success onto our website. So thank you all for all the work you're doing, for really the long processes it takes to shift from a top-down world to a bottom-up world. And I just can't thank you enough. What a privilege it is to get to work with you all. So with that, anybody who wants to turn on their cameras or undo their mute and say goodbye to everyone, it's the time when we get to, let me stop sharing, it's the time that we get to say goodbye and end the call. So thank you all. It was great being with you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Here.
Yeah,
Great
bye.
meeting.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.